Have you ever stopped to think that everything we are today, our memory, our feelings, even the way we love, started in ways far less obvious than we imagine, millions of years ago? While many believe the origin of man is written only in biology textbooks, the truth is the clues are hidden in surprising details: the quiet power of females, the invention of deep primate sleep, the emotional evolution that unfolded in the trees, and even the very first signs of empathy in the ancestors of humanity. And here's the paradox: humanity wasn't shaped only by strength or struggle, but also by feelings, bonds, and behaviors that began long before we think. It sounds controversial, I know, but science shows that cooperation and the ability to care for one another were what truly set us on the path to greatness. While many still believe evolution was simply about survival of the fittest, the great apes remind us that without trust and connection, there would be no humanity at all. In this series, we're going to travel back to the time of the Gigantopithecus, Ramapithecus, Pierolapithecus, and many others, to uncover how the evolution of primates gave rise to the first human feelings. Get ready, this journey will challenge beliefs, spark curiosity, and reveal that the story of humanity is far deeper, more mysterious, and more emotional than what you learned in school. So before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss what comes next. Around 25 million years ago, the world was a completely different place. Dense forests stretched across Africa, Europe, and Asia, creating the perfect stage for the rise of the great apes, the true ancestors of humanity. They had no idea they were writing the very first chapters of the origin of man, but every fruit they picked, every leap between branches, every territorial dispute already carried the signs of our own journey. It's fascinating to think that what we call modern life began with silent steps in the middle of the green. Among these beings who shaped the evolution of primates were some truly impressive figures. The Gigantopithecus, which could reach nearly 10 feet tall, looked like a giant guardian of the forests, while the Ramapithecus and Gigantopithecus carried in their bodies and eyes the promise of the origin of the human family. They weren't just creatures trying to survive, they were living experiments of nature itself. When we look at this diversity of primates, we realize that each one of them left a piece of the puzzle we now call humanity. And what's even more interesting is that many of our modern preferences still carry traces of that past. The joy of walking through a wooded park, the sense of peace we feel near nature, or even the way we seek groups to feel safe, all of this is a direct inheritance from our human ancestors. What for them was survival, for us has become an emotional need. And it's precisely in this heritage that we begin to understand how human evolution happened not only in our bones but also in our hearts. After all, new characters would soon appear, revealing even more surprising secrets about our ancestry. Around 13 million years ago, in a region we now know as Spain, a little-known but incredibly important figure appeared, the Pierolapithecus. This small primate is considered one of the most fascinating human ancestors, because his body carried clear clues about what would forever change the course of human evolution. He could support himself on tree branches in a nearly unprecedented way, taking the very first steps toward what we call bipedalism in the trees. It wasn't walking upright like we do today, but it was already the sketch of a revolutionary idea. That movement opened the door to something greater, the notion of freedom in the heights. The Pierolapithecus no longer had to crawl or rely solely on four limbs. He could explore more efficiently, reach fruits, and keep an eye out for dangers. That simple detail carried within it the seed of the origin of society, because the way he moved also transformed the way he related to others. He was launching a new stage in the evolution of primates, showing that small changes in posture could completely reshape the future of the ancestry of the human brain. Who would have thought that a single step on a branch could prepare humanity to one day step on the moon? And if you think about it, what this primate did isn't all that different from what we do today when we take a step outside the curve in life. Just like he found a new way to support himself to reach higher branches, we also need to create new supports when we want to achieve bigger goals. Maybe it's taking a course to change careers, making an investment to escape stagnation, or even starting a conversation that opens doors. Human evolution teaches us that every bold move, no matter how small, can change the course of history. And it was exactly in this boldness that something even more surprising would be born, the ability to feel for others. At some point in the long path of human evolution, a detail emerged that might look small, but it changed absolutely everything. Life in groups was no longer just about survival, it was also about feelings. Picture a young male trying to fit into a new group. He had to prove he was trustworthy, that he could share food, that he respected the group's hierarchy. In this effort, the first seeds of empathy in primates were planted, the very foundation of the first human feelings that would later define us. In this setting, females exercised a quiet but decisive power. They were the ones who chose who stayed, who could get closer, and who was expelled. The power of females shaped social bonds and taught, in practice, that brute force wasn't always the decisive factor. This dynamic was essential for the origin of society, because for the first time, acceptance didn't come only from hunting or fighting, it came from the ability to inspire trust and to care for others. Even today, in families, or even in companies, it's often the women who hold the group together and nurture stronger ties. And this is where we realize something powerful: emotional evolution wasn't born in palaces, but in the trees. When one primate shared a fruit with another, or stood by an injured companion, he was shaping what we would one day call solidarity. That behavior still lives in us today, whether it's helping a neighbor or standing up for a friend who's been wronged. In that invisible thread of connection, we can recognize the most beautiful traces of the origin of the human family. But something even greater was about to unfold, and it would happen in the very moment the group closed their eyes at night. When primates began to organize themselves differently, the transformation didn't happen only during the day. At night, a silent revolution forever changed the course of human evolution: the construction of nests in trees. These shelters offered protection from predators and, more importantly, allowed for deeper rest. This seemingly simple habit gave rise to what we now call the invention of structured sleep, something essential for the ancestry of the human brain. With this stable sleep came something extraordinary: the evolution of memory. A deeper rest allowed the brain to organize experiences, strengthen learning, and even consolidate emotions. Without this leap, we might never have developed the ability to remember stories, create traditions, or plan for the future. It's amazing to think that while in deep primate sleep, the very foundations of our culture, and even our dreams, were being built. No wonder that even today, when we sleep well, our minds feel sharper and more creative. This advancement also carried another powerful consequence: the creation of stronger bonds within the group. After all, those who slept together trusted each other. That collective trust was fundamental for the origin of society, since it increased cooperation and reduced the risk of nighttime attacks. Curious, isn't it? While today we look for comfortable mattresses or apps to track our sleep, our human ancestors already knew, instinctively, that good rest was a matter of survival. And it was from this nightly habit that the next day became even more productive, opening the door to something just as grand: the birth of culture and the sharing of knowledge. As groups of primates became more complex, something began to happen that would forever change the path of human evolution: knowledge started to be shared. A mother would teach her young how to tell the difference between an edible fruit and a poisonous one, showing through practice the value of observation and repetition. That simple but powerful gesture was the seed of the origin of culture, the ability to gather experiences and pass them down from generation to generation. Without this step, we might still be living only by instinct. This process went far beyond immediate survival. By teaching and learning, our ancestors of humanity created something very similar to what we still do today in schools, families, and even on social media: transmitting knowledge. Think about how a grandmother teaches a family recipe, or how a mentor shows a young professional the ropes. The root of that behavior lies way back in the branches, where Pierolapithecus and other human ancestors were already exchanging precious information to keep their groups alive. It was the beginning of what we now call tradition, and also the foundation for building collective values. Interestingly, the social structure also reflected this new dynamic. While males were often expelled once they reached maturity, females remained in the group, ensuring stability and continuity. That detail strengthened even more the power of females, who became the guardians of knowledge and cohesion. It's not so different from what we see in many families today, where women preserve the stories and keep the bonds alive. In this way, emotional evolution and the transmission of experiences intertwined, shaping not only survival but also identity. And it's at this point that we open the door to understanding the true secret origins of humanity. Now that you've seen how the great apes, millions of years ago, laid the foundation for our memory, our bonds, and even our way of feeling, I have to ask, what are you doing with this legacy? Are you using your ability to empathize to strengthen your relationships? Are you making space for deep rest to sharpen your memory and creativity? Or are you letting this incredible inheritance sleep inside you? Human evolution shows us a clear lesson: survival wasn't guaranteed by brute strength, but by social intelligence, collective care, and the sharing of knowledge. So why not apply that same wisdom in your life? Imagine how things would change if you shared more experiences, listened more deeply, or valued the connections that hold your world together. The very power that transformed bands of primates into societies can transform your own story too. So, are you just going to watch the story of humanity, or are you ready to use this knowledge to write your own? If this journey stirred something inside you, leave a comment and tell us what surprised you the most. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to keep uncovering the deepest secrets of our ancestry. After all, this is only the first part, and there's so much more to come.